Good Wednesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for September the 18th. Today we are reading together Psalm 114. The 114th Psalm has been given the title in my Bible, God's Deliverance of Israel. It does not have a superscription, but Jewish tradition tells us that this is a part of the Egyptian Hallel Psalms that span from Psalm 113 to 118. It is very likely that this was one of the Psalms that Jesus and his disciples would have sung together at the time of the Passover. And these Psalms do focus on the deliverance of Israel from Egypt by their good God, which makes sense for why they would be sung around the Passover then, since that is the event that really was the most prominent event, I guess, in the Exodus events. All the plagues, of course, were very powerful and came with great significance, but none more so than the final plague, which came with the institution of the Passover. It is a short psalm on the docket today. Psalm 114 is not very long, but it is a great psalm full of powerful language, which doesn't come straight out at the very beginning and tell us exactly who is at the center of the discussion. In fact, the Lord is not mentioned until verse number 7, which is the next to last verse. But certainly this is a psalm of praise to him. And again, this is one that would have been sung and worshiped according to at the time of the Passover. So let's read together here Psalm 114, beginning in verse number 1, which tells us when Israel, good start there. Psalm 114, verse number 1, when Israel came out of Egypt, the house of Jacob from a people who spoke a foreign language. Judah became his sanctuary, Israel his dominion. So who is the his there? It's not mentioned explicitly at this point, but obviously with the yellow highlight you see, probably have a good idea of who is being referenced here. But in verse number 3, the sea looked and fled, the Jordan turned back. The mountains skipped like rams, the hills like lambs. Why was it, sea, that you fled? Jordan, that you turned back? Mountains, that you skipped like rams? Hills, like lambs? Tremble, earth, at the presence of the Lord, at the presence of the God of Jacob, who turned the rock into a pool, the flint into a spring. Psalm 114. So looking at this psalm, in the first two verses, we see a drastic change in status that has taken place among Israel. We read initially about Israel coming out of Egypt, about the house of Jacob coming away from a people who spoke a different language. Egypt is certainly in view here. So in one sense, initially, we see them in bondage. We see them in captivity. We see them in not a land that is their own. We see them under the oppression of another, under the control of another. But they're brought out from that. There is deliverance from bondage. And now we read that Judah and Israel, that they became his sanctuary, his dominion. Well, who is the his? Of course, we get to the end. We recognize that the owner now, the one who is in control of Israel, no longer Egypt, no longer those pagan people and their pagan Pharaoh, but now God, now Yahweh. They are Yahweh's sanctuary. They are Yahweh's dominion. They are a special people. They are not like other nations. They're different because of the one who has saved them and the one to whom they belong. Well, then verses 3 and 4 give us three very impressive events that have the power of Yahweh stamped all over them. Number 1, the sea looked and fled. I believe most certainly this is in reference to the Red Sea parting, that the sea, whenever Israel was backed up against it, whenever they were doubting, whenever they were thinking that God had brought them out of Egypt just to kill them, whenever Moses lifted his rod at the command of Yahweh and the sea parted, became like a wall on both sides, and the people were able to walk across on dry ground. And then whenever Pharaoh and his army went into the sea, the walls then collapsed on top of them. Here's Yahweh parting and making the sea to flee. Well, then the Jordan is also mentioned here. The Jordan turned back. I believe this is a reference to the Jordan crossing, which took place in Joshua chapter 3 and Joshua chapter 4. Remember that whenever Yahweh made the Jordan River stop upstream so that the people could walk through. And then finally, we read about the mountains skipping like rams, the hills like lambs. I appreciate the rhyming there. But I think this is in reference to Mount Sinai, whenever the impressive scene is described for us in Exodus 19, where the top of the mountain was fiery and smoky. The image is like that of a volcano. And yet that is Yahweh's presence being on top of the mountain where he would eventually deliver the law to Moses. So the sea, it splits, it looks back and flees. The Jordan is turned back. It's stopped up upstream so that people can pass the mountains. It is rumbling and chaotic because of Yahweh. So the question from the author of the text is to the sea and the Jordan and the mountains and the hills. Why'd you do that? Why? Why was it, sea, that you fled? Why, Jordan, did you turn back? Why, mountains, were you skipping? And hills, why were you skipping? Why? What could make such incredible natural forces and just entities like the sea, like the river, like a mountain, what could make them behave in such a way? Well, not only should they have an incredible response to Yahweh, but in fact, the entire earth should tremble at the presence of the Lord. They did these things because of Yahweh's greatness, because of his power, because of his strength. So tremble at the presence of the Lord, tremble at the presence of the God of Jacob, because guess what? That's not all he did. He also turned a rock into a pool and flint into a spring. There's the provision of water, Exodus 17 and Numbers 20 being in view here most likely. These incredible works, these incredible deeds are done by no one else except all-powerful Yahweh. He is the one, and notice all the things that take place here. He is the one who can take this nation from a place of bondage into a place of freedom, from a people under oppression to a people in a special place. He can take the sea and part it. He can take the river and stop it. He can take the mountains and the hills and make them shake and tremble. God alone has the power and the ability to do these incredible things. And so, as the people then meditated upon the Passover and meditated upon everything that God did in the Exodus and everything he did in the wilderness wanderings and everything he did in bringing the people to the land, because all these things are in view. The Exodus is in view here, considering the people coming out of Egypt. The Red Sea crossing is in view with the Red Sea. The wandering in the wilderness, the provisions are in view with turning the water or the rock into water, the spring or the flint into a spring. The conquest is in view in them crossing the sea. The establishing them as a special people is in view because of Mount Sinai in Exodus 19, 20, and so on. So many things are in view here in this very short little psalm, Psalm 114, and the 8 verses that constitute it. Yet so many important memories, so many powerful images are brought to mind, and they simply remind us that there is no one who compares to the Lord. There's no one who compares to Yahweh. No one else's presence should cause such a visceral and real reaction like that of Yahweh. And that's why he alone is worthy of this praise. That's why he alone is on the minds of the people during the Passover, and why such events as the Passover were so important to bring the people to a place of reminder so that they might consider Yahweh's great works and give him the praise and glory that are due his name. And certainly, as even we read the psalm thousands of years later, we should be reminded of the same, that the same God who parted the sea, stopped the river, shook the mountains, also raised his son from the dead and has him seated at his right hand and watches over his people as they seek to serve him and glorify him in everything that we do. What a glorious thing to serve such an amazing and incredible God. And this psalm today certainly reminds us of that reality, his incredible power, his majestic presence. you have any questions or comments about Psalm 114, please feel free to leave that in the comment section below. I appreciate you taking some time to read along with me. On this Wednesday, we'll be gathering together tonight at 7 o'clock for our Bible study, continuing to work our way through Matthew chapter 24, making our way toward the end of Matthew chapter 24, about to bring our study in this text to a conclusion. We'll be picking up tonight in verse number 32. Verse number 32, of course, I preached from Mark's version of this text on Sunday. So hopefully maybe that brought some questions or thoughts to mind. I'm looking forward to discussing those things tonight and next week before we begin a new study in the 1st of November. And I think that might actually be November 1st. 2nd, no, October, excuse me, October. Yes, October 2nd, we will be beginning a new study. So we do have tonight, the 18th, September 18th, and next week, September 25th, and we'll begin a new study on October the 2nd. So a couple more weeks to consider Matthew 24, and hope we'll be able to have some beneficial lessons over the next couple of weeks. So looking forward to seeing everybody tonight. And then, of course, on Friday, we'll be reading together from Psalm 115. The title being Glory to God Alone, another of the Egyptian Hallel songs, the songs of worship during the Jewish Passover. Looking forward to seeing everybody tonight and to seeing everybody on Friday. Take care. Actually, you know what? Before I do, I need to check the calendar real fast. I don't think we have anything special today. I know it's Hal's birthday on Monday, and I don't think we have anything today. I say that though. Let's see. I take it back. Well, not today. I was correct on that. Tomorrow. Tomorrow is Emma Wade's birthday on Thursday, the 19th. So a very happy birthday to Emma. I hope you can reach out to her and tell her happy birthday. Tonight, see you in person. Friday, see you for the next reading. Take care and God bless.